What's going on, everybody? It's LtBuzzLitebeer, and we've got a lot to discuss today as the Title Update 11 full patch notes are now hot off the press. But before we begin today's video, if you want more of this type of intensive Division content in your lives, make sure to smash that sub button and ring the bell to never miss another upload notification from my YouTube channel. Alright, there's a lot to cover, so let's not waste any more time. Okay, staying true to the way that I normally cover these patch notes, I've now jumped over to the Ubisoft forums, and I will leave a link to these full patch notes in the video description. But you can see up here, Title Update 11, New Season, Concealed Agenda. Down here, it's talking about that the manhunts start tomorrow. So normally we have a 1-week lag in between when a title update goes live and then when the season begins. That will not take place for this one. It will begin tomorrow once you download it. New manhunt tasking you to take on 5 rogue agents over a 12-week period. So that's 3 months starting on September the 22nd. And this is going to be Barden Schaefer, leader of the BTSU. Down here, it's just explaining a few things. New global event, Shade Exposed. New apparel event, Last Resort. New leagues, Shade, Wraith, Dusk, and Belfry. New rewards, 2 new exotics, 1 new gear set, 2 new named weapons, 2 new named gears, and 1 new brand set. And then down here, it's also talking about playing in the Dark Zone will contribute XP by gaining DZ levels beyond level 30. Down here is where Summit begins. I'm going to read this to you word for word, and I think you guys all know where I stand on the Summit, but this is the way it is explained. Title Update 11 introduces the new PvE game mode, the Summit, for free to all owners of the Warlords of New York expansion. So first important point there, if you don't own the Warlords expansion, you will not be able to play Summit. The Summit brings agents to a skyscraper occupied by hostile factions, and as you progress towards the top, the difficulty gradually will increase, and you will start seeing more ruthless enemies standing in your way. That's all true. The Summit is designed to be highly replayable. I disagree with that, and also meant to offer a challenge to everybody from our most dedicated agents to our newer agents. Okay, floors will be different each time you fight your way through the building, as floors are randomly selected from a number of preset designs and get populated by random AI spawns. Not so much in the way of I guess versatility in there. You're going to see quite a few of the same floors and quite a few of the same spawn closets, but I will let you console players experience that tomorrow. I'm going to shut up with the negativity with that. All right, progression throughout the floors is aimed at specific rally points, and players can leave and jump back in when they are left off without losing their progress. The total time to reach floor 100 and thus unlock all the difficulties can vary greatly depending on the player's skills and equipment, as well as their team configuration. It will take many hours to reach up there, 5, 6, 7 hours for you to reach floor 100. Especially if you're in a group because of the scaling. High replayable PvE game mode. Keeping my lips sealed. 100 floors to fight your way through. Once again, keeping my lips sealed. Checkpoint system, yes. Unique rewards, okay. Based on the PTS feedback, here's what you got here. These are the changes, and I think I already covered these. Added greater variety and diversity into objective types as you progress through the Summit. Change the hosta's revive timer to be longer. Increase the radius of the hack zone for EMP objectives. Increase the amount of loot caches scattered throughout the building. Reduce the number of directives on legendary floors 91 through 100. Now has 3 random directives. Previously had 4. Be careful with directives. We saw the PTS feedback about this and would have preferred the tougher difficulties will not need to grind through the first 50 floors if they don't want to. You know how I feel about that. So if you want to start on heroic, you can just go all the way up to floor 51 and begin your heroic grind, which effectively cuts out half of what the Summit is supposed to offer. We are by default unlocking rally points up to 51. This is the start of the heroic floors. You can see it right there. In addition to the new objectives added in PTS Faves 2, there are a couple more coming for TU11. Adjusted frequency of certain objective types based on the PTS data feedback. So certain objectives weren't showing up in the rotation as much as we'd like to see. They will be so now. Tuned the droned ambush objective. Rogue agent encounters will also occur on legendary summit floors, still disabled for DC strongholds. Added exotic fire teams for legendary, so occasionally you will see some unusual and challenging combinations of certain enemy types, and crew ambush will no longer occur on legendary floors. So there's Summit. I look forward to seeing what all my console brethren out there feel about that. Here they're talking about the transmog system. This allows you to change, for instance, if you're running around with a Petrov body armor, you don't like that huge neck protector up in front of your face. This allows you to change it over to, say, like Sokolov, the actual visual look of it, even though you still are running around with a Petrov chest piece. So that's essentially what transmog is. Plus you can change up the colorings and everything that you want there. So appearance mods, aka transmog, will become available to you in TU11, allowing for much greater customization of your agent's visual look. You will save the appearance of all obtained gear following the release of Title Update 11, allowing you to override your agent's look with the gear of your choosing. All gear is supported by appearance mods. Weapons and exotics are excluded, so you can't change the way those look. Note, when logging into TU11, you will need to log into each of your characters to unlock the looks of all owned gear. This only needs to be done once, and you do not need to save the gear to keep their looks available moving forward. So once again, transmog, you can change the look, the physical appearance of the gear and most weaponry, excluding exotics, that you're using, and therefore you can kind of customize the way you look. You know, if you like the way a certain backpack looks, but you don't like the way the brand set backpack looks, the one that you currently have equipped, you can change the appearance over to something that's more pleasing to your eyes, and then you can save it. Also, we discovered this in the last, I guess, State of the Game discovery mode for Operation Iron Horse will now be available in Title Update 11. Okay, new exotics. MPX submachine gun, we knew about this one. The backfire, dealing damage to enemies, adds a stack of plus 1% critical hit damage up to 200 stacks, lasting 10 seconds. On reload, it applies a 10-second bleed to yourself, which deals 0.5% armor damage per stack. Remember, with when it applies a bleed to you, it also slows down your movement speed. So be careful with that one. Backpack, the Memento. Enemies you kill will drop a trophy on death. Collecting trophies provides both a short and long-term buff, the first of which scales with the numbers of core attributes equipped and lasts 10 seconds. So you get 5% weapon damage per red core, 10% bonus armor per blue core, 5% skill efficiency. We'll talk more about that skill efficiency later on in the patch notes per yellow core. For every trophy collected, gain an additional plus 1% weapon damage, plus 1% skill efficiency, and 0.1% armor regen for 300 seconds, maximum 30 stacks. So if you know anything about the Memento, that is the backpack with all of the shade watches and the axes on it. It doesn't actually have attributes. It has core attributes, 3 of them. So you have all 3. It's like a rainbow backpack. And as you kill, if you have it equipped, as you kill enemies, they drop trophies. You run over and pick up the trophies, and they apply both short and long-term buffs to your agent. Here is the chest, Ridgeway's Pride. This is awarded for completing floor 100 on the summit. Shooting enemies within 10 meters applies bleed to the target. Repairs 1 to 25% of your armor per second for every enemy that is bleeding within 10 meters. And then it has to break down 1 enemy, 1%, 2 enemies, 4%, 3 enemies, 9%, 4 enemies, 16%, 5 enemies, 25%. And sorry, I said it's awarded for finishing floor 100. I don't think it's actually awarded. I think the quest begins once you finish there, and then you have to accumulate whatever. New gear set coming. This is Hunter's Fury. So there you go. An offensive gear set specializing in aggressive close combat, it is built around red weapon damage core attributes. 2-set bonus, 2-piece bonus, 15% SMG and 15% shotgun. 3-piece, 20% armor on kill, 100% health on kill. Not that health on kill really matters in this game, because health doesn't really matter. Armor on kill might be helpful though. 4 pieces, Apex Predator. Enemies within 15 meters receive a debuff, increasing your weapon damage against them by 20%. Don't sleep on that. Killing a debuffed enemy with your weapon disorients other enemies within 5 meters and amps weapon damage by 5% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. That's a lot going on in there. Think of that. You increase your weapon damage by killing an enemy. You apply a debuff, so you've got a damage build. You've got a CC build, because killing a debuffed enemy with your weapon disorients other enemies within 5 meters, so you're disorienting them, so they're kind of staggering around. So now it's a CC build, and it amps, that's multiplicative damage, your weapon damage by 5% for 10 seconds, and it stacks up to 5 times. So you can stack up to 25% multiplicative damage for 10 seconds. Wow. Chest, Endless Hunger increases the duration of Apex Predator. Listen to this. Predator stacks from 10 seconds to 30 seconds. Wow. 300% more uptime on that multiplicative damage bonus. That's pretty strong. Backpack, Overwhelming Force increases the radius of the Disorian effect on Apex Predator kills from 5 to 10 meters. So not only are you boosting up your weapon damage, you're boosting up your CC radius as well. So I imagine people are going to have a lot of fun with Hunter's Fury. All right, so this is the new skill trap variant. This is the Shrapnel Trap. The Shrapnel Trap scatters a minefield of small explosive devices. They can attach to any surface, including enemies, and then detonate based on enemy proximity. So it's a proximity mine. This skill will become available in-game when the prime target of Season 3 becomes available, but is available on the PTS for feedback and testing purposes. All right, so that is the award for finishing up Season 3. So down here we have the two new named weapons. You got the 612 shotgun called the Mop, which is plus 10% armor on kill. And the Card 45 pistol, the TDI Card Custom, which is plus 1 skill tier when used. All right, Bellstone Armory. This is also the new brand set. You'll read about it in a little bit, but it has a perfect version, which is perfectly efficient. Using an armor kit has a 75% chance to not consume the armor kit. Specialization armor kit bonuses are increased by 100%. I don't know why you would use that, considering the chest pieces that we do have available to us, but certainly interesting. Bellstone Armory Backpack Liquid Engineer. Perfect bloodsucker. Killing an enemy adds and refreshes a stack of plus 12% bonus armor for 10 seconds. Max stack is 10. Here is the actual Bellstone Armory. They probably should have put this one up above, but here it is. A defensive brand set primarily focused on self-sustain and efficient repairs. I thought that's what Foundry Bulwark was. But anyway, I'm not going to bring that subject up. Core Armor Blue attributes. So obviously blue armor. Set bonuses plus 1% armor regen. 2-piece bonus plus 10% armor on kill. 3% bonus plus 20% incoming repairs. And it talks about down here the new weapons. The shotgun, this is the non-name version. This is the 612, a compact 6-round cylinder-fed shotgun, optimal for close quarters urban combat. So it almost has a revolver style cylinder from the way it works. And then down here you have the Card 45 prototype semi-auto pistol, chambered in 45 ACP. Utilizing the same technology as the Vector, but in a much smaller package. Nice. So there it is. There's the Card 45, standard weapon. All right, this is kind of interesting down here. I'm a big skill build user, and sorry if I just blew your ears off there. I'm trying to stay a little bit further away from the mic. Windows blew out all my sound effects, or all my sound settings with Voice Meter Banana, and I'm basically getting them back up to snuff, so hopefully it's not blowing your eardrums out. This is skill efficiency. Remember, we got weapon handling a few title updates ago. Now this is skill efficiency. Skill efficiency combines everything with skills into one attribute. Similar to weapon handling, skill efficiency is a new attribute that modifies multiple skill-focused attribute bonuses at the same time. So plus 1% skill efficiency is equal to plus 1% skill damage, plus 1% skill haste, plus 1% skill duration, plus 1% skill health, plus 1% repair skills, and plus 1% status effects. Now, we don't know at the maximum that this is available, and it looks like this is a attribute. I was discussing this earlier with some of the Duck members. I had Stelly, I had Padron, and I had Corrupt in there. I don't know yet if this is available on mods. I'm thinking not, because mods can go up to, like, if it's skill haste, what is it, 12%. But, you know, as far as efficiency, not efficiency, as far as skill damage as an attribute, skill damage only goes up to 10%. But here's an interesting question I'd like to pose to you. Say, like, something like Future Initiative or something like that, or Eclipse Protocol. Maybe you're running around with Eclipse Protocol and you have it set up for status effects, and you're running around with a Vile Mask, which is a really strong combo. But instead of status effects, you want to then, let's say that skill efficiency is set at 10% max. Well, then I can go in and I can roll off status effects at 10%, and I can put it on skill efficiency. And then I'm picking up plus 10% status effects, plus 10% skill haste, and plus 10% skill damage, all in one. So that would be interesting to see. That could do some interesting things to some skill builds, because now depending on if it's 10% or 12%, is it on a mod, is it not on a mod, this could really boost up a lot of areas, whereas we could only go into status effects, or we could usually only go into like damage and haste. Well, now I can go into damage, haste, and duration, or I can go into damage, haste, and effects. So that's going to be interesting to see. It says down here, skill efficiency is currently only available on the new Memento exotic backpack. I understand what they're saying, but this looks like a stepping stone over to something else. I'd be interested to see what this could do on other gear pieces. So we'll have to see on this. I read through these. This is a tragedy down here. Sorry to break the news to you. These are the 2 new directives that they hinted at State of the Game. We've never had directives done well in this game, and these 2 are quite possibly the worst that I've seen. Fragile armor. Well, listen to this. Replaces hard to earn. Armor breaks apply a stack of broken to the agent up to a maximum of 4. Each stack of broken reduces an agent's max armor by 20%. Using an armor kit removes 1 stack of broken. So let that stink in. So let's say you're running around with your skill build with 700k armor. You take, and you're on the summit, and you're on legendary, you take 1 shot, your armor's broken. Damn near all your health, too. Okay, so at that point, you now have a debuff applied to your character, and it means that your max armor, once it regens, is now 20% less than it would have been should you not had that debuff. So instead of 700k, it's now down to, what, 550k or 525k. That's the max it can go up to. The only way to flush this debuff off is to use a med kit, which are hard to find when you're up on legendary. I mean, they're not just dropping all over the place. So if I take a maximum of 4 of these broken debuffs onto my character, I'm now down 80%. I'm only at 20% of what my normal armor would be. Now, the way this reads to me is that it's each time you take a hit, it is 20% of what your initial armor value was. It isn't like, you go from 1 million, you take a hit, it goes down 20%, so now you're down to 800k, and then you take another hit, and now it's at 20% of 800k, which is 160k down from there. I don't think it's a diminishing return. I think it's just a flat 20% off of your initial max armor value. All right, so I received a couple messages about, directives and how I was getting down on them. I'm going to make a suggestion here. Since directives are just squarely done to hamper our abilities, they don't do anything. They aren't like nightmare mods where we get a positive and a negative. Well, clearly we can see what the negative is. What I'd like to suggest to the dev team is on this one, Fragile Armor. Okay, so we get a 20% debuff for each time our armor's broken. But how about this? If we don't flush it off, how about we pick up 20% weapon damage? So for each time, it's making me ride that fine line. How much armor do I want to try and sustain myself without in place of damage? I'll pose that to the dev team. How about that? Each time I take a debuff of 20% armor taken away from my character, from my max armor, unless I use a med kit to, wipe that one debuff away, how about you give me 20% weapon damage in place of that, in lieu of that? So it forces me, like I said, to ride that fine line between having no armor and putting out a ton of damage, but at that point I am really a glass cannon. Or do I go ahead and use those med kits up, which are hard to find on Legendary, and just put out my standard damage, but I'm at close to what, or at max of armor of what my character was initially had. So that would be my way to fix Fragile Armor. The way that Fragile Armor looks right now, it's horrible. I don't know why anyone would want to use this, and if this is one of the random directives that you get on Legendary difficulty and on Summit, you're going to hate it. It's already bad enough the way it looks. I'm not going to use this one ever on my personal playthroughs where I can go into Light Zone and customize my directives. This is horrible. Next one is really bad for skill build users. Scavenge skills. Replaces cool skills. Now skill cooldowns do not progress on their own. So think about this. Skill cooldowns do not progress on their own. So for all of you who went into haste on your builds, it's now useless. Agents must collect skill parts as drops from enemies and broken weak points. Each part collected reduces cooldowns. So this might work well for like an all-red build where maybe you're running around with, I don't know, like a hive and maybe a repair drone or, you know, chem launcher, heal, something like that. And you're able to break weak points and actually have a little bit of sustain where you can run around and pick up these skill parts that are dropped from enemies. But for a skill build user who runs around with no armor, let's face it, no armor at all, the only way I can get my skill cooldowns to progress is I have to basically run through enemy combat, enemy fire, and pick up skill parts, or I got to try and break weak points. Well, if my skills are on cooldown and I'm running a skill build, I'm putting out minimal damage for my weapons. Unless you're running like possibly like a Harmony with in sync or perfectly in sync or something like that. But that one really hurts. All you've done there is force us to break cover in a cover-based shooter, run around and pick up skill parts to try and bring our skills off cooldown. So once again, my option here is if my skills are on cooldown, then maybe you give me more armor. How about that? So if both of my skills are on cooldown and I haven't picked up any skill parts, then, you know, I pick up, you know, 40% armor or something like that. Give me some positives to actually want to break cover and run around and pick up skill parts to bring my skill cooldowns back, you know, in line that I get my skills back. That would be a way to fix that. Give us more sustain because you're forcing us to break cover and run around and pick up skill parts, which are basically backpack trophies. It's kind of like Memento, but in a you know, almost built into a directive here. That's the way to fix that. But the way those two sit, I will never use those two. They are awful. They are awful the way they read. Okay, so moving on here, we have gameplay changes. This is global events down here. Developer comment: after reviewing the global events as a whole, we decided that the global events introduced in Season 1 did not provide the power boost to agents that we desire. As such, the following global events have been reworked to provide a significant boost to power. Player power, excuse me. I had an issue with, and that's the reason I don't grind the global events, is to me, all they do is constantly provide debuffs, just like directives, to our agents. So down here, Guardians, this one was probably the bane of my existence, the one I hated the most. The buff provided from killing a Guardian Angel now grants the ability to penetrate Guardian protection. In addition, the buff renews its duration with each kill, permitting agents to chain kills throughout an entire fire team without necessarily defeating all Guardians first. Additionally, defeating all Guardians in a fire team now prevents the surviving members from gaining protection for an amount of time based on their veterancy. Standard enemies will not be able to receive protection for a long time. Named enemies can now regain protection quite quickly. Finally, melee attacks against protected enemies will briefly rob those enemies of their protection. So my main issue with Guardians is I would take on a fire team, I would get rushed by shield, elite shield wielding NPCs, shotgun wielding NPCs, and the Guardian that was providing them, all this protection would hang out half a mile behind them and never break cover. So I could never get a shot on them, and I was having to deal with these waves of basically impenetrable armor enemies. What it's saying there is the buff provided from killing a Guardian Angel now grants the ability to penetrate Guardian protection. Okay, so if I can kill the Guardian Angel, I now get, I guess, a buff to penetrate Guardian protection. And the buff renews its duration with each kill, permitting I can actually chain kills and kill an entire fire team without necessarily defeating all Guardians first. So if there's multiple Guardians out there, all I really need to do is kill one, like if they're in a chamber, and then I can get a debuff. Still going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt, especially if you get rushed by multiple, basically invulnerable NPCs, but you've got to get that one Guardian Angel down, and then you get basically a buff to your agent that allows you to break through their, immune effects and go from there. I don't know if I want to grind out Guardian so much in the future, but we'll see. Next up is Polarity Switch. That's this one down here. The shock for shooting opposite polarity enemies has been removed. Thank you. Values for the strength of the stacking buff have been updated to provide a significant power boost to agents. Okay, so we're picking up power. I like that. Reanimated. The green cloud produced by killing enemies with a headshot no longer harms agents. Okay. This cloud now heals agents and provides a significant boost to their firepower while standing within it. The green cloud continues to significantly harm enemies. So if I'm reading this correctly, Polarity Switch and Reanimated do nothing but really boost up our agent's abilities, but Guardian still, it has that tricky mechanic. You still got to burn through a Guardian Angel, or down here, this final sentence, you've got to melee one of them to take away their protection. So the bottom two, Polarity Switch and Reanimated, seem like they have nothing but power boost. Guardian's still going to be an issue. All right, so mods down here. We talked about these in the past. Mod slots on backpacks, chest, and mask are now generic and no longer associated with a specific offensive, defensive, or utility mod type. Okay. Mod slots on gear are no longer able to be recalibrated. Now pay attention to this next one. Note, any existing gear that had its mod slot recalibrated prior to TU11 will have that recal automatically refunded, allowing a new attribute or talent to be recaled instead. So think about that. Maybe you had like golden gear or something like that, and you went in and you actually spent your recal on an offensive mod slot and you were trying to turn it into a skill mod slot or something like that. They're going to refund that because now it's a generic mod slot, and you can actually go in and work on one of the attributes or maybe switch around the talent. So make sure you note that on your gear. Also down here, added generic mod slots to all improvised crafting high-end gear. I talked about this in the past. If you want to make an all improvised gear set, it's not going to be a brand set, but an all improvised gear set, maybe with a couple talents that you like one on the body armor, one on the backpack, you'll have 6 mod slots. Interesting, right? I find that interesting. Down here, developer comment, any type of mod, red, blue, yellow, can now be placed in any mod slot, regardless of previous brand set or exotic gear color association. Example, you can now place a defensive or utility gear mod into an heraldic backpack without needing to recal the mod slot from red to blue or yellow. Defensive gear mods can now drop with disorient and ensnare resistances. Okay. So there's everything to do with mods. So mods are going generic. Down here, I know a lot of you are concerned about this. This has to do with loot. Rainbow loot introduced weighing to gear attributes to reduce the amount of rainbow loot. The first non-core attribute has a higher chance to be of the same color as the core attribute. Long story short, if you get a weapon damage mask, chances are the first attribute, or higher chances are the first attribute on the mask is also going to be a red attribute like weapon handling or crit or something like that. Okay. Added all new Season 3 weapons and gear to the general loot pool. Added the new Season 3 brand to targeted loot rotation. Down here, Season 2 content. Updated Legacy Season cache to include weapons, gear set, and named items from Season 2. Added Season 2 blueprints to generic blueprint loot pool. Removed Season 2 level requirements from Season 2 exotics from all sources. Mantis and Vial can now be acquired from general exotic sources. Examples, targeted loot, exotic caches without any conditions. So if you don't have a Mantis or a Vial, a lot more options now just opened up. Down here, balance changes. These are pretty wild. Death grips. Armor on kill, 5% to 10%. Big change. Down here, huge change. Eclipse protocol. Indirect transmission, kill status lowered. That's the backpack one from 15 to 10 meters. Proliferation, which is on the body armor, brings it from 10 back to 15 meters. So they basically want you to run the backpack and the body armor together to keep that same indirect transmission spread radius, which is still pretty big. I mean, 15 meters is 45 feet of radius around wherever you create the status effect. Now here's the one, the big one. Increased symptom aggravator damage amplification from 15 to 30%. Wow. Remember, symptom aggravator is a status effect amp damage. So once you ensnare or catch something on fire and you've got indirect transmission spreading to all these different NPCs within basically a 45 foot radius, 15 meter radius, you are now doing double the amp damage. And if I remember correctly, not only are you doing double the amp damage, but everyone else that is shooting them is also getting that amp damage added to their incoming damage to those NPCs. So that is huge. That is a big change. Remember, amp damage is multiplicative. That is better than just all weapon damage or just standard damage. This is big. Do not sleep on Eclipse Protocol. Obliterate down here. Increase the number of max stacks of total weapon damage from 15 to 25%. Not quite as good as Perfect Glass Cannon, but you know, there's so many downsides to Perfect Glass Cannon with all the amp damage that you take. This may be a better choice now. It's not amp damage, it's regular damage, so it's not quite as strong, but at 25, that's pretty strong. PvP, we talked about this in the last video, so we know what's going on. Reduce the PvP damage modifier from 0.35 to 0.3. Reverted previous changes to pistols to pre-10.1 values, which is a buff. That's what they say over there in the parentheses. Small increase to all shotgun, rifle, and MMR PvP damage modifiers to match global damage reduction and retain pre-TU11 time to kill. Slight reduction to overall SMG PvP damage. I would have liked to have seen an actual percentage. That would have been nicer than just slight reduction. Lady Death's a breathe-free weapon damage amp effect lowered from 75 to 60% in PvP. 75 to 60. Originally, they had done it from 75, I believe, to 50. So they came up another 10%. I remember in the patch notes for the PTS, it was 75 to 50. It's now 75 to 60. So you don't lose as much. So the Lady Death is not hit as hard in PvP. Developer comment down here. The above changes should result in a small increase to TTK, time to kill, at medium close range while keeping rifles and MMRs deadly at longer ranges. Down here, these are big changes to PvP, and pay attention to these. These are PvP changes. Crusader, Reflector, and Striker shields now take 33% more damage in PvP. So those are the assault style shields. They all take a third more damage. You're going to lose your shield a lot faster. Riot Foam Chem Launcher, base and snare duration lowered from 3 to 2 seconds in PvP, so you lost a third there. Firewall Spec Talent, Fire Response no longer applies a 5-meter burn on armor break in PvP. People were abusing that, they've now taken it completely out. Eclipse Protocol's indirect transmission on kill status effects spread lowered from 15 meters to 5 meters in PvP, 7 meters with proliferation chest talent, so it really kills the spread effect of indirect transmission for PvP. Next up, Headhunter. Buff duration lowered from 30 seconds to 5 seconds in PvP. Huge nerf there. Headhunter damage bonus lowered from 40% to 20% in PvP, 25% with Perfect Headhunter. So you effectively lost half of your headshot damage bonus in PvP. So Headhunter got banged hard for TU11. Audio improvements. Title Update 11 brings significant memory optimizations for audio, which should resolve the audio loss issues reported by players since TU10, especially on PlayStation. They didn't put that over there. But anyway, next down, we got a huge number of bug fixes. I should have actually gone through here and actually touched on a few that I wanted. The first few ones, and I'm just going to quickly skim through this, all have to do with basically floor 100 on the summit. Enemy spawns on the summit group when matchmaking. Shade crates in the summit. Headhunter talent duration to refresh when swapping weapons. Wow. People were probably abusing that in PvP. Some sort of world first portrait on Xbox not showing up. Anyway, I'll leave these down in the video description. There is a huge number of fixes down here. This could have been like its own title update itself, I would say, down here. So a lot of changes going on up here. We've got a lot of I think, some positive changes in there. We got some, I think, really bad additions to the game, especially those new directives are bad. Guardian rework, not so good still. The other two, Reanimate and the other one, better. We have Season 3 coming, a lot of changes to weaponry. Eclipse Protocol is going to be beast and PvE, and new weapons and brand sets. So hopefully I was able to cover it all for you, and Godspeed. We're going to find out what all you console players think of the Summit starting tomorrow. Alright, so we've now covered the full list of changes in depth, and it's probably a good place to end this one. A quick reminder, if you haven't yet hit that sub button, you know what to do, and don't forget that bell icon to receive those notifications. If you liked the video, rate it with a thumbs up, if not with a thumbs down. If you were interested in purchasing one of these swanky Iron Horse Raid PDF guide t-shirts, check in the video description, the pinned comments, and in the visual links below your viewing window. And remember, all proceeds from the sale of this shirt will be donated to StackUp.org, which is a charity organization dedicated to helping veterans through the power of gaming. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter for all my latest thoughts concerning most things gaming related, and until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.